So I've been having an experience happen to me over and over recently, and it inspired me to want to make a video about it. And this is leading me to create an entire series about this idea. It just so happens that every time I was looking at my Sega Genesis recently, or even thinking about it, this one song would always pop into my head immediately. I thought to myself, wow, that's like the music I always hear in my head when I think of my Sega Genesis. And I wondered what I thought, when I thought of other systems too. If you've seen my other videos before, you know probably that I like to focus on the music in my games. Being a musician myself, it's something that I gravitate towards, and I have a huge respect and admiration for those who compose music for video games. Hell, that's a gig I'd love to get. Some of our favorite songs as gamers are so iconic that merely looking at even our unplugged system sitting on our bed would leave us believing we could still hear the music playing in our head. It's like our systems are these silent and phantom music boxes, and I would just love to explore all the pleasures of this phenomenon with you all. After this realization I had, I started thinking of other systems and noticing which music came to mind first and why. Though, most of the time when thinking about one system, multiple tracks will be playing in my head at once. We all know there's more than one iconic tune we love, but for me it always seems to be that one in particular comes to mind first, and usually every time. At this point, let's just say it's gonna be like a top 5, but the bottom 4 are sort of tied, And number 1 is the song that comes to mind first, most often. So this is what I hear when I look at my Sega Genesis. One of the first songs that comes to mind is the title track of one of my favorite games of all time, Shinobi 3: Return of the Ninja Master. I mean, hell, I love it so much it's my damn ringtone. It's upbeat, energetic, melodic, and starts the game off right. I can almost say that without fail, every single time I turn this game on, I let that intro roll out until the end just to hear this tune. It gets my blood pumping for some shuriken-throwing action, and it matches the mood and pacing of the game perfectly. The rest of the music in Shinobi 3 doesn't disappoint in the slightest bit either. Every tune is just so tight and lends to the experience of being in whatever environment you're in. Shinobi 3 has some of the best overall music and sound in any game on the Genesis, and it's no wonder why this title track comes to mind time and time again for me. Now don't tell me this isn't the first song you think of when thinking of Sonic the Hedgehog 2. It's the first level after all. That repetition, plus the fact that it's a really good tune, is probably why when I think of Sonic the Hedgehog 2, Emerald Hill Zone comes to mind first. It's a really nice, upbeat, and fun tune, and there's a certain instrument being used too that sounds really close to the noise when getting a ring or getting hit by an enemy. So it just seems to perfectly meld with the sound effects too. What a cool experience acoustically that is. From a musicianship standpoint, I'd say that was intentionally done, and bravo to the composer for doing it. There are other great catchy songs in Sonic 2, but Emerald Hill Zone always stands out to me, and is one of the songs I think about most often when thinking about the Genesis. When I think of RPGs on the Sega Genesis, Shining in the Darkness is always the first one that comes to mind for me. I think it might have even been the first RPG I ever rented, maybe not the first one I played, but I just remember being enamored with it when I did. The first-person perspective and design of the characters really called out to me. What I was not enamored with, however, was the difficulty, and it was just too much for me at that time. I sadly never sought to play it again as a kid because it was too hard and turned me away. But the appeal of it was always there, and I always had bittersweet feelings towards it. How foolish I was back then not to give this game a fair shake. The one thing that did stick around with me for all the years before I owned this game again was the battle theme. I swear I could hear it just by looking at the box. When I finally purchased this game again a few years ago now, and that battle tune came on, it was like all the feelings I had toward this game came flooding back to me, reminding me of how powerful my own nostalgia is, and especially in the case of an unrequited love for a game. Now you want to talk about songs to get pumped to, Streets of Rage 2's Expander should be on that list. From the very beginning, its energetic techno tone comes through strong, sounding like you just got thrown into a Chemical Brothers concert, and man, when you heard this in the game, you knew shit was about to get real. Most of the game's tracks are awesome too, and once again, overall, it's a really great sounding game. Exemplary even. As it is for most or all of these tracks, it's impossible to hear the song by itself and not hear all the sound effects that go along with it. Can you really tell me you hear this and don't hear enemies screaming and punches and kicks coming through? That's the power of the music in these games. Hearing just a couple of notes can send waves of nostalgia coming your way. And I, for one, am happy to get swept up in it. This brings me to my final selection, and the inspiration for this whole project, which is now going to turn into a mini-series on this end. This is the song for me that time after time for years and years comes to mind instantly when thinking of my Sega Genesis. And that is the main theme from Eternal Champions. Now that may come as a surprise to a lot of you, as it may not be the best quote-unquote song on the Genesis. Even though I might have songs I favor more or ones that give me more goosebumps than this, hearing this tune still does something really special to me. It takes me back to that one Christmas morning where I got this as a gift, popping this baby in and hearing that song come on. The percussive rhythms expressed in the distorted guitar spoke to me, being a guitarist myself, and the melody captivated me instantly. I honestly can't say that I remember a lot of the other music from this game, and maybe it's because I haven't played it enough. You may not realize that it's tough as nails. I actually don't think I've ever beaten it more than once or twice, and as cool a game as it is, it's not one I play very often. Maybe it's the fact that this song is paired with the subject matter of all these champions already being deceased, and that gives the tune a sort of bittersweet feel behind it, or maybe it's just that it's a really kick-ass tune. But for me, when I think of my Sega Genesis, this is a song that comes to mind time and time again. If you're like me and you have a soft spot for the music in video games as well as the graphics and gameplay, then I hope exploring more collections in this mini-series is something you're looking forward to, because I most certainly am. So thanks for watching, I'm Enigmatic M, and I'll see you next time. Peace out.